Hello, this is Coach Stanley. Welcome to today's presentation in which we are going to analyze a very short game uh, that will show and demonstrate the theme of double attack. As we know, uh, double attack happens when a single move threatens either two pieces or threatens a piece and a checkmate. The whole idea is that of the two threats, when one is taken care of, then the other one has to fall. The other one becomes effective. And that's how we usually get ourselves an advantage using this skill of double attack. We shall also look at the thought process just to guide us on certain considerations that we need to look at as the game progresses. So let's get started with this short game for today. Uh, the game runs as follows. White plays e4, and then black answers with e6. After d4, d5, we arrive once again at the position um, whose opening characteristic is that of the French defense. When black plays e6, d5 as his first two moves, that becomes the French defense. And one characteristic feature of the French defense is that this diagonal where white usually puts the bishop to start attacking black's king side uh, is no longer possible. So anyway, to continue with the game, white develops the knight to c3, defending his attacked e4 pawn. And then black goes ahead and exchanges at e4. I think this is not very good because it somehow surrenders the center. As you see, after white captures, black has no pawns in the center. Then black continues with knight f6 developing, and instead of capturing or exchanging at f6, white decides to develop another piece and protect his knight. So in terms of the thought process, you see that each time a side makes a move, we need to ask ourselves questions like, why have they played that move and what are they trying to do? In this particular case, black is not just developing, he's developing plus threatening this knight on e4. So white needs to come up with a plan. Should they exchange or should they do something to their knight? White decides to develop the bishop to d3, protecting the knight. Now, there's another thing that this bishop does. It shields or blocks the queen from protecting the d4 pawn, which is being faced by the black queen. Once again, the thought process for black should be, what happens if I take that pawn? There's a trap here. Whilst the pawn looks harmless to be captured by the queen, once the queen takes the pawn, white can do a tactic here by removing this bishop to b5, giving a check to the king. And the removal of the bishop will open this white queen to the black queen, so there will be an open attack. So what white is trying to do in essence is to trap the queen. Black knows that, so he just goes ahead and develops another piece, his bishop to e7, and completing his kingside development so that now the black king can even castle. Okay, white also continues, knight f3, just normal development, at which time black decides to castle. White can also castle, but he's not in a hurry. He's completed his kingside development, so he decides to develop the queen to e2. At this point, black comes up with a plan. He's looking at his white bishop. It's blocked by the e6 pawn, which is quite typical in the French defense. This sometimes becomes a black bishop. It doesn't have a clear passage, and you have to find alternative ways of activating this bishop for black. So he decides to play g6 so that he can develop this bishop in that diagonal and aim towards white's king side. But what he doesn't consider in the thought process is what happens if I push that pawn. Pushing this pawn opens this diagonal. It seems harmless, except for the idea or the tactic that white is going to use shortly, which will be seen. After g6, white realizes that if the queen could go and sit where this knight is on e4, then the queen will threaten checkmate there, and she will also threaten capturing the bishop, the rook on a8. So what white does is he exchanges off the knights with tempo because he takes with a check, and white has to recapture on f6 either with the bishop or the pawn. To keep the defense of the king, the black king, he captures with the bishop, after which white goes to e4, threatening checkmate with the battery of bishop and queen that is formed in this diagonal, and also threatening the rook on a8. Thus, when black plays g6, for example, to stop the checkmate, then this queen will just go and take there. And immediately, white gets a huge advantage by leading with the whole rook and having 5 points to himself. Thank you.